Hello, everybody. How's it going? Today is February 23rd, and welcome to the Tatiana Show. Today we have a couple different guests, so that's pretty exciting. And of course, we have Josh, the handsome and wonderful person from Voltoro. Hello, Josh. How are you doing?
Oh, shucks. How are you?
I'm good. So, what's going
Yeah.
on with you? You're traveling today? That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we're down in Munich at the moment, talking to some people, some meetings, but had super bad luck. We were bus, bus problems and then train problems and all sorts. So, but I managed to get into a hotel lobby and join the conversation. So that's great. And it's an
Okay.
exciting time with people today.
I'm surprised that we have such decent reception. I was a little concerned, but I'm glad that you were able to make it on because our second guest duo, I guess what we'll call them, is has something to do with Voltoro, so that'll be fun. Um, Great, good, good, good. So why don't we get started? We've got a friend of mine, Perianne Boring, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her organization and the upcoming conference. So Perianne, thanks very much for being on the show.
Hey, Tatiana, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Very cool. So, for people who are not familiar with you, you obviously founded the Chamber of Digital Commerce, and you are doing a whole bunch of stuff down in DC. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about how you found out about Bitcoin and how you founded the chamber?
Sure, absolutely. So I founded the Chamber about 2 years ago in July of 2014, and this organization really came together quite organically. I formerly worked on Capitol Hill as a member, advising a member in the House of Representatives on finance and economic issues. And during my time on the Hill, I learned about Bitcoin. It's an issue that the committee was briefed on. And from the moment I heard about this technology, I was extremely interested in it. And then I was recruited off of Capitol Hill, and I went into the media, and I was working as a financial analyst in network broadcast news at RT. And Bitcoin was one of the alternative topics I was covering on my show. And then 2013 happened, which was essentially the year, the greatest gift you could ever give a journalist is Bitcoin in 2013, because it was so much drama between Silk Road and Mt. Gox and Liberty Reserve, and a 3,000% price increase in a matter of months. It was very exciting. But as someone that had worked on the Hill, I knew that all this drama in the press was not very helpful for the technology. So in that year, we also had several Capitol Hill hearings in front of Congress. There were a number of different federal rulemakings, many of which were not necessarily helpful for the growth of this technology and the growth of the industry. And through my work, I was calling for formal representation in DC, because we were having hearings and rulemakings, and there was really nobody here to go to policymakers and explain what is Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's not a company. It's not like PayPal. You can't call the CEO and say, come in and tell me what's going on. It's decentralized, so it's a little bit different, and so it had its own challenges. And in the public policy process, and having a philosophical debate about whether public policy should be around or not is one conversation. But at the end of the day, there's some really real challenges that we have to be honest about, and that is that the powers that be pass laws that affect all businesses, and you can either have laws shaped around you, or you can be a part of that process. And having your voice in that dialogue, you're going to get to a better outcome for yourself and for the overall market and for the industry if policymakers have a base level of education. So something I'm very passionate about is, if you're a policymaker and you're writing rules and regulations and policy that affects this technology, then you need to have an understanding of how the technology works. And that's where we come in. So the Chamber of Digital Commerce, we're a nonprofit organization, and we help build the dialogue between industry and government. And we help the industry understand what their rules and responsibilities are. We help companies stay in compliance. We're not lawyers, but we can help you navigate the system to ensure that you're you're doing everything you need to do to be in compliance with all the different laws. There's a lot of regulatory bodies you have to navigate when you're dealing with financial services. And then we also help the government navigate the industry as well. If they have questions, they're seeing criminal or legal activity, help them understand how the technology works. So we have a big event coming up on March 3rd, the DC Blockchain Summit. It's our inaugural event. Microsoft, Deloitte, IBM, PwC, NASDAQ will all be there, as well as a number of different blockchain startup companies such as Chain, Block, BitPay will be there, blockchain.info, and some others. So we're really excited about this event, and we've got some really awesome people coming out to DC to participate in it. And it really shows the amount of work we've been doing here in DC to be able to bring this type of interest into this town.
Okay, that's a lot of action going on in all of your stuff. So would you say that you're a lobbying organization or no?
So technically we can lobby. We have the ability to do that. It's in our charter. I would say at this stage in the game, there's more education than lobbying happening. Right now we're doing a lot of work laying educational foundations in Washington. So when the day comes that we need to have a more sophisticated policy discussion, we're not spelling Bitcoin and blockchain. So today a lot of the work we're doing is very education focused. As the industry continues to grow and mature, and we have more targeted policies that we have to work through, we have the ability to be more government affairs, lobbying, advocacy focused as well. So it's early days.
Can I just say that I really applaud what you're doing? I mean, to go out there on a limb and jump onto this new technology. I mean, we're all in this field, but then to actually tackle this massive beast who's scared of this thing and also doesn't really understand it, so they're sort of putting the industry into boxes that already exist which don't fit, and being able to educate them is really fantastic. And full disclosure, we've chatted before about how compliance and stuff like that in the States, and I think one thing you said that really rung true to me was if police and stuff are doing their work and they hear about this, some criminal used Bitcoin, then they just go like, oh, it's just a nightmare, let's just ban this thing. Whereas, going in there and educating them, saying, well, this is real value, real money, it's going to be used in dangerous situations or criminal situations, because that's what it is. It's a free movement of value. And so to educate them on how to read it and how they can use it to fight crime is really important, so that they don't just knee-jerk reaction and just ban it, which is the worst thing that could possibly happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Josh. And the law enforcement discussions have been very interesting. I would say in early days of our work here in Washington D.C., especially as we were seeing Silk Road and type headlines. Law enforcement was starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable about this thing called Bitcoin. There's a lot of money being spent in a black market to, on criminal activity. And from a law enforcement perspective, they talk and work very closely with the regulators, and that's what's really important to understand, is how closely interwoven these relationships are. And if law enforcement goes to regulators and says, look, we're seeing a ton of criminal activity over this thing called the blockchain, we don't get it, we don't know how to use it, you need to stop it, and then public policy is formed in that type of setting, that's a worst case scenario for the industry. If public policy is going to be made that affects this technology, we want it to be made with the industry in mind. And we also want people to understand the difference between Bitcoin in the blockchain, for example. Regulations that have to do with currency are going to look a lot different than the distribution of digital assets, like a smart contracts platform. And you can't paint regulations with a broad brush because it's going to affect every company differently. And Josh and I, we've had some discussions about this before, and another area in which we help some of our companies is helping them navigate these laws. There's, if you trigger specific laws, it's going to up your compliance cost as a company by millions of dollars. What do I mean by this? You are in the business of money transmission. So if you are in exchange, for example, you're exchanging Bitcoin for a fiat currency like dollars, or even crypto to cryptocurrencies. This can be determined and defined as money transmission. We estimate that the compliance cost for a company in the United States, or a company offering services to people in the United States, is anywhere between $3 and $5 million a year just to comply with the money transmission regulations. So something else we help different companies with is understanding how to or not to trigger those types of laws. So if you're building your business model, you're a startup, you're in early days, you love Bitcoin, you love blockchain technology, or Ethereum, these distributed ledgers, consensus ledgers, and you want to build a company in this space, but maybe you have limited resources, you have limited funds, and you're not really into getting super involved in these compliance issues, well, we can help show you how to build a business model that doesn't trigger those super regulated areas, and which can be very helpful for an early stage company, and it's really going to be extremely helpful for startups. I'm a huge supporter and believer in startups and small businesses as the backbone of the economy in not only the United States but around the world. So it's important when you have limited resources to understand how to navigate that, how to keep your compliance costs down. And a piece of that is part in early days of putting together your business model. And as someone who spends a lot of time with these different compliance obligations, that's something we take into consideration when working with early stage companies.
Richard, Josh, go ahead. You had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, are they starting to see the potential of multi-sig and how that differentiates someone from being a money transmitter? You know, these sort of intricacies, these nuances of Bitcoin, which really are so far from any box that they can stick you in. Is there any movement towards an understanding of this, of these nuances?
That's a great question. So for the past year and a half, we've been spelling Bitcoin, B-I-T-C-O-I-N. Now we're starting to spell the word blockchain. We've got a couple people that can spell both words. Multi-sig is a little advanced, I would say, for most people in the regulated space. Not always, though, but I will say in multi-sig in particular, and this is a very important technology for identity and protection and security management. And we do have a huge win in the state of North Carolina. The Commissioner of Banks issued a piece of guidance in the form of FAQs specifically stating that multi-sig was outside of the scope of their regulation. This was the first time ever any regulator had written the word multi-sig down and said it was outside of their jurisdiction. So we do have the state of North Carolina that understands that. Now that we have that, we are starting to take that and circulate it to other states and other regulators and say, look, North Carolina, they understand what this technology is. They understand how when you have multiple keys, how risk can be distributed in different ways, very differently than a normal bank account or even an email account. This multi-sig technology has huge applications. Can we sit down and can we tell you about it? And can we also bring in some of the multi-sig technology pioneers and have them explain it to you? And we are starting to get really great response. And what happened in North Carolina at the end of last year opened up a really big door for the industry to make huge strides with that technology.
So I was wondering, when I hear about regulation and helping the government understand Bitcoin, on one hand, I totally get that, and I say, okay, well, obviously this is the world that we live in, and we want to minimize the involvement in a negative way with the industry because it's something that's somewhat unavoidable. And then on the other hand, there's well, these are regimes that have been oppressing people. And for me, I feel like there's an extreme bloat to our government, right? It's just involved in every little thing that we're doing. What I found also interesting, because in advance of this interview, you and I were just chatting, and you had said that you were actually a Ron Paul fan. And I think that that's kind of interesting. So if you're a person that is aware of, that kind of libertarian impetus that brings a lot of people together in this community, how do you how do you justify that to yourself? Like, do you sometimes feel like you're working with the very people that have taken an overblown amount of power in the first place? What do you think about that?
No, absolutely not. I certainly see the chamber's role as the industry's boots on the ground in Washington. We are helping the industry navigate this town called DC. And whether you like it or not, DC is a very influential place, and things happen here that affect businesses around the world and really can have a huge impact on the potential growth of this technology. And we're here to protect that and to protect the interest of the industry. And that's who we represent, and that's the chamber's mission, strategy, and goal. To get really personal with you, I first came to Washington, D.C. as a White House intern. I worked for in President Obama's first term as an intern. So I worked, very far on the Democratic side of the aisle. And then after I left the White House, I went into the House and worked for the 14th most conservative member of the House. So I worked for super Democrat office all the way to a super Republican office. And I can tell you that politically, I've personally felt very torn. There's parts of both parties that I like and dislike very much. At this point, I feel like they're kind of the same for a lot of the reasons that you express. The big government. I certainly come from a limited government mentality, and yes, I am a huge Ron Paul supporter. I voted for him when he ran for office, and even have pictures of him hanging in my house, and that message of limited government very much resonates with me. And today, I would say I'm from the blockchain party, so I don't really care if it's Democrat or Republican or libertarian or anarchist or something else weird. If you're for technology, you're for the blockchain. That resonates with me, and that's what we represent here as well. And I think it's important for people to understand that at the end of the day, the government exists whether you like it or not. They have the power of the purse and the power of the state over us. And it is better to be on their side and to work with them than to be on the other side, because I think we're going to get to a much more free and accessible market, by working with regulators and helping them understand it. And education is something I've always felt is key. The better you understand it, the more likely you are to allow it to thrive and have better policies that allow it to grow in ways that are going to advance society and humanity.
I think that those are some very, very fair points that you raise. Something else that stuck out before when you were talking about law enforcement's involvement in Bitcoin and how Bitcoin can be used for bad things. Obviously, the number one currency around the world for doing bad things, and that's sort of subjective, is the US dollar and cash. I often think of the Silk Road case, how there were two government agents, at least, that have now pled guilty to extortion and stealing money and all these different things, and their involvement in the Silk Road, which I think was particularly bad because they're being paid by the taxpayer in order to not steal money from the site that they're trying to shut down. That being said, there was an ability to track what they were doing much more so, because Bitcoin, if you approach it intelligently and the person who set up the Bitcoin account isn't mindful, it's not anonymous at all. You can very easily kind of track what you're doing if you have the right tools. I guess, what really I find frustrating is that there are a lot of organizations and a lot of different powerful people where the law is not equally applied. poor people are oftentimes thrown in jail for drugs. And I'll tell you right now that there's a lot of drug use in and a lot of prostitution for that matter in DC and in Wall Street. And those people, they never end up getting in trouble for it. Then you've got the other problem where over 95% of people in prison had to take a plea bargain because they can't even get to trial. There's the thin blue line that prevents prosecution of law enforcement. So I think that there's some logical, reasonable ways that you can make the argument for one side, but then in practice, I find it very disturbing and upsetting that these laws are not applied to different groups. Although I don't know if you're really here to solve that problem or if we are, but I think that Bitcoin can bring a lot more transparency. Do you think that the government would be likely to, since considering a lot of them are criminals, do you think that they would be likely to be implementing different ways to bring more transparency when it could in fact incriminate them as well?
I would hope so, and I think there is hope for that. Just 2 weeks ago, we saw the chief scientist out of the UK publish a report recommending distributed ledgers, essentially blockchain, for a number of different public services, including document and identity management. I do know through conversations that we're having here internally in Washington that there are a number of government entities that are looking for purposes and use cases for blockchain within public services. I'm a huge advocate for using the blockchain for electronic health records, for example. So I was in the White House the day the Affordable Care Act was signed into law. In that law, electronic health records have been mandated, and a lot of healthcare is going out of the free market and will be controlled by the government, like it or not. That also means that our health records will be under control of the United States government and agencies within the government. And I don't know about you, but that makes me pretty nervous. One, because I was also a victim of the OMB hack. As a former federal government employee, the Chinese hackers have my information, and I've been given a lot of information about that. And so now we're taking a whole nother set of data and records in healthcare. This all is going to be made electronic over the coming years. We absolutely need a safe way to store medical records. So I'm a big advocate of using the blockchain for electronic health records as mandated in the Affordable Care Act. That's just one example. Now, voting systems. NASDAQ has a voting system with the stock exchange in Estonia, where shareholders of companies will be able to vote in shareholder meetings from anywhere in the world. This is an early use case. It's being put together by NASDAQ in a small area of Estonia. But once that is completed, it will hopefully pave the path to have similar type systems, voting systems, for bigger types of uses, and being able to use it for a voter system in the United States could bring huge amounts of transparency. So these types of use cases are being thought up by industry thought leaders, by leading companies, by leading tech companies. Some of the world's largest tech companies are already building out these use cases. And I do believe they're going to make their way into government over time, and I'm absolutely a huge advocate of that. Identity is another very important use case of the blockchain through smart contracts. Being able to encrypt something like your passport or your social security number. How much money a year is wasted because of personal identity theft? I mean, we're talking billions of dollars lost from people having their credit card numbers stolen, to their social security card numbers stolen. All of this could be made a lot more secure and also could be handled more efficiently by using the blockchain. And there's a huge use case from that. And in the UK, we already have the top scientist out of the UK who's already recommended this. So we're seeing it in other parts of the world. It's only a matter of time before we're going to see that in the United States. I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when. And I think it's a good thing because it's going to make government functions more transparent, more efficient, and more safe.
Do you think that the government will want to shrink its size, though? I think those are all amazing use cases. I think it's very obvious how great blockchain and Bitcoin and blah 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 could improve function of a number of different systems. I guess I'm a little bit, I can't really see them wanting to all of a sudden, fire a bunch of people and being like, hey, listen, we just found this really efficient way. We love efficiency. We're the government. This is what we like to do. We like to save taxpayers' money. That's not true. They love to spend people's money. Although I suppose there could be public pressure as people understand the technology as well, and they would sort of be forced into it. I'm sure they didn't all go onto the internet, the first day that it came out, but now government agencies do utilize it.
I think with added transparency, it will help with that. I would agree with you that our government in many places is bloated, but then you'll also have people that will argue that they don't have enough money for different types of services that they're responsible for offering to citizens as well. So it's a challenge. But let's walk through an easy example, like food stamps. I know food stamps is not the appropriate term for this, but there was an article in Government Technology that I worked on, and it walked us through the example of a food stamp. And for the amount of people that receive these welfare benefits, what if they were issued on a distributed ledger like a blockchain, and you were able to follow that credit all the way from leaving the government's resources to the actual beneficiary, and to then where that went. There's a lot of corruption that obviously happens through this process. There's a lot of middlemen. I mean, people trade food stamps for different types of services. And if you had an added level of transparency to be able to track where those benefits are going, and you were able to identify corruption or instances where the system was being abused, then there could be a stronger argument for paring down a type of system. And I'm not saying we need to cut out food stamps or anything like that. I'm saying when we're giving benefits to people, there should be a level of responsibility and transparency with that. And the blockchain may be able to enable that. And with that, you'll have a greater opportunity to make these programs more efficient, which could lead to a leaner, more efficient, and also more safe and effective public system.
I mean, I'd like to see the transparency before it even reaches the person. Where does the government get that money from that it sends out to the people? Rather than seeing what happens
the printer
to the poor people, because actually people on food stamps, they're not going to create a massive stir with the amount of money that they're getting. Yeah, I mean, they're all really interesting use cases, and I think identity is a really important one. I had a friend of mine whose identity got stolen, and it took him nearly 12 years of nightmarish courts and fighting to get his name back in the green after loans were taken out in his name from all over the world, and it was up to him to have to prove that it wasn't him, and so it was interesting to see with a blockchain. What you would do is you would assign an identity to an object, a pseudonymous code, and if that code gets stolen, you could just scrap that and reinitiate a new one. So if anyone's using that code and say, yeah, I'm Josh, here's my code, here's my public key, you could actually, as soon as that's stolen, I could turn that off and regenerate a new one. So it's a really important step, especially now that we're getting more and more laws around KYC and AML, like what's nuts. And I think what Perianne's saying is how the blockchain can be used for identity is really important, really, really important.
Yeah, I think you gave some really good answers, Perianne.
If it's
I
done
like it.
right.
The mics are starting to go in and out, so I'm just getting the end of the conversation, the end of your comments and conversation here. But absolutely, I think it's important to educate government on the potential promise of this technology, and that's only going to lead to better outcomes for businesses and individuals that want to innovate with this technology.
Fantastic. I think we might have lost Tatiana. But yeah, I think there's a lot of challenges ahead, and it's good to see someone that's willing to take on the the massive complex that is the state, and not only that, the individual states, not only on a federal level, which is infinitely complex.
Okay, can we, I guess, since we're coming up on the half hour right now, we're going to have the Coinigy guys come up. But before we have you take off, Perianne, maybe you could tell us one more time about the event that you're planning. I believe it's March 3rd. I'm so disappointed I'm not going to be able to make it. And where people can find out, maybe they feel like their organization could benefit from being part of the Chamber of Digital Commerce. Actually, one last question. Would you think that being part of the chamber is something that you have to be a US-based company in order to benefit from, or do you think that international companies have a place there as well?
No, we have members from all over the world, and I mean, let's face it, the U.S. economy is the largest economy around the world by a long shot. So a lot of businesses are going to be offering products to Americans. Not only that, about $1 billion has been invested in this industry this year. At least 90% of that is coming from U.S. investors. So the United States is certainly playing a very integral role in developing this technology from the earliest of stages. So companies, despite where you're located, whether you're in the United States or abroad, Washington is going to have a huge amount of impact over the future of the entire industry and individual businesses around the world. And a lot of these regulations that come out of Washington, they have nothing to do with where you're located. If you are offering products or services to American citizens, you're still bound by the laws and regulations by the United States government and the governments of the states as well. So it is important as a global technology to be able to navigate the regulatory waters of the largest economy in the world. And the follow-up on the DC Blockchain Summit is on March 3rd. We're doing this at Georgetown University, who's the official partner of this event as well. Again, our keynotes are Don Tapscott, Arvind Krishna from IBM, Adam Ludwin of Chain, and Blythe Masters of Digital Asset Holdings. IBM, Microsoft, and NASDAQ will all be presenting, as well as a number of different blockchain startups like Chain, blockchain.info, Netkey, BitPay will be there as well, Circle, and some others. So it's the DC Blockchain Summit. Our website's digitalchamber.org. There's a big banner on the front page where you can sign up and register. It's actually the most affordable conference in the blockchain space. We've kept prices low because we want people to attend, and we want to be inclusive to people from all different walks of life, government or non-government, crypto or non-crypto, Bitcoin or blockchain, are all welcomed. And we're excited. It's next Thursday at Georgetown University, so hope you guys can make it.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Thank you so much, Perianne. You were a great guest. I really enjoyed speaking with you, and I won't be there in DC, but I hope you call me when you come to New York next time, or I'll come down to DC.
Well, you will be missed, and thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Take care. Thanks very much.
Okay, bye.
So, Josh, that was good, right? I like hearing from Perianne. I think that she brought up some fair and balanced points. I'm like a raging liberty-minded gal, so I always get a little bit nervous. But I think what she was talking is pretty logical.
And so am I. That's the thing. And so for people like us, it's really good to outsource dealing with the state because it's nothing more infuriating than doing that. So, having someone on your side.
I like that she was into Ron Paul. That was good.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. And, so maybe you could introduce our next guest, though, because I guess they partnered with Valtoro in some way recently, right? Do you want to do that?
Yeah, sure. The good folks down at Coinigy, some people call them, they have an amazing platform, an absolutely amazing platform. You can basically trade on, I think it's like 100 different 80 different exchanges.
50. I guess 50. I know that.
Yeah, we're sitting just under 50, Josh.
50. That's a lot. it seems massively, and it's amazing because you can see a really nice matrix of arbitrage opportunities. That means if a price is on one exchange is cheaper than another, you can quickly buy and sell on the different exchanges and make a little profit. So that's really great. Yeah, William, welcome to the Tatiana show.
Yeah,
And
thanks for having me,
Vlado.
guys.
Don't
And
leave
Vlad.
Vlado out.
Oh, yeah,
Thanks
Vlado.
for having me.
I'm sorry, Vlado. I'm
Sure,
sorry.
no problem. Thanks for
Well, hey,
having me.
yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. You know, I just want to make a comment about the previous guest. I mean, a lot of the initiatives that she's doing, I mean, this is gravely needed in this space. So I was just incredibly impressed, and I think we're going to have to reach out to the Digital Chamber and, you know, just to, at least in terms of us as a startup, I mean, like she said, navigating the waters, especially in what we do, is it already proving to be a nightmare. So any kind of advice or support we can get in that is going to be huge for us, you know, as we grow. So yeah, I mean, I guess I can start out, unless you guys have any initial questions, just give a little bit of my background and how Coinigy came about. So I have a background in IT and information security. I first learned of Bitcoin in 2011 when the price was actually hovering around 15 bucks. I had a friend of mine say, hey, there's this new thing, it's like Bit Gold or something, you know, I don't really get it, but I'm buying some, you should buy some too. So I went ahead, I believe I purchased that on Mt. Gox, and it just sat in my wallet for probably the next 7-8 months. I was actually then down on vacation in St. Martin, and I decided just on a whim to check, you know, what about this Bitcoin thing? I mean, I wonder if anything happened there. And I caught it just as the initial run up to 250 bucks was occurring on Mt. Gox. And I'm sitting there freaking out on my phone going, oh my God, what's going on? The price is going so high. And then Mt. Gox started having server issues, as they were off to do. And you know, I kind of said, well, there's definitely something here. Let me do a little bit more research. And that's really finally, you know, within the next week is when I actually read the white paper, kind of got interested in the actual, you know, intrinsic things behind Bitcoin and decentralization and all that stuff. So at that point, really started mining, got into altcoins. And my current business partner has been a friend of mine for a long time. Got him into the mining and the trading and all that fun stuff. And we started building our own trading bots, basically for Mt. Gox. And we just were not happy with the interfaces available on the exchanges, you know, and just there's so much disparity between exchanges. So we started to kind of build our own platform, and before you knew it, some of our friends on the internet asked for access, and Coinigy was born. So what we offer today now is a long ways away from what we initially had, as Josh mentioned. But some of the main features of Coinigy is that we're essentially an exchange hub. So anybody who's currently interested in trading, whether it be Bitcoin, altcoins, gold in Valtoro's example, what you can do is, first of all, you know, you're expected to at least be somewhat familiar with, you know, how trading works and the exchanges work. But what Coinigy does is it lets you consolidate all of your exchange accounts under one interface, and we provide pretty awesome HD charting with 75 technical analysis indicators, as well as portfolio monitoring, automatic alerting. We also provide an API in the back end. So we have quite a few irons in the fire. Hopefully we can touch on a couple of those things. So yeah, and recently integrated with Vaultoro, and that's been going very well for us.
So let me ask you a couple questions. The obvious one being, how in the world do you deal with regulation?
Right,
Because,
so
I mean, that just sounds like a big mess.
yeah, so you are correct. I mean, as far as regulation is concerned, one big thing we have on our side is that we don't hold any user funds. So all the users' funds are safely stored at the exchange. And what users do is they actually connect their exchange account to Coinigy via the exchange's API. So for example, Vaultoro, in addition to allowing trading, Vaultoro also offers an API, which it has a unique key for each user. That user can then input their API key into Coinigy, and then Coinigy, the platform, is able to manage their funds. However, these funds stay safely at the exchange. So we're not actually we're not technically a money transmitter. We're essentially just kind of a, what's the word?
An interface.
Yeah, an interface. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, so, but we do provide kind of, features that are not necessarily available on a lot of the exchanges, like our charting and portfolio management tools, and just a lot of things that more, institutional level traders are familiar with. We're kind of trying to merge, crypto with the traditional financial markets in a sense that somebody who's new to this space, we do have a lot of ex-Forex traders or current, Forex traders jumping on our platform because they're used to kind of the granular level of data access and real-time information that we provide. In addition to the things I mentioned, we also today, I believe, we're releasing kind of a new add-on where blockchain metrics are going to be accessible as an overlay on our charts. So you're actually going to be able to correlate things like difficulty directly with the price action, transactions per minute. We're building out a whole slew of different metrics here to overlay.
Cool.
Yeah, it's looking great. So it's going to add a
I
whole
think there's a
new
lot of
level.
correlation. But can you plug in things like Google alerts? Every time I've seen some correlations of like the amount of time Bitcoin is searched for and price sort of seem to correlate really well. And correlations are correlations, but in terms of technical analysis, everything has a little bit of a meaning, and you can take them or leave different analysis tools. But I think things like that are a really great idea.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely working that direction. I mean, social sentiment is huge in these markets right now. Just because, what are we at? I think a $6.6 billion market cap, as far as the entire crypto sphere, I guess you could call it, is concerned. But compare that to Forex, which has $4.1 trillion daily trading volume. So we're still in our infancy here. And as Josh mentioned, definitely social metrics, social sentiment, even Google searches per day are really good indicators. And we have built this platform to essentially marry all of these kind of new types of indicators into one platform. So that's really what separates us from your typical, I guess, trading site is. We've built it in a modular fashion, so we can really plug in all these new types of analytics that can really help make smart trading decisions.
And so how long have you guys been doing this for?
My business partner Rob and I started this in late 2014, so we're just going on almost 2 years now in development. We released into beta in early 2015. So that's when that became publicly available. And yeah, things have been going great. We've been actually kind of snowballing here in the last few months, what with the Ethereum rise and obviously the price action on Bitcoin. So yeah, it's been going very well. But as I mentioned, we're going to have to, I think, speak with Perianne about some of these legal issues in the future. So, but we're definitely cognizant of that. We do have legal counsel here in Milwaukee, where we're based. So we're fairly confident we're pretty good going forward here. But yeah, I guess I should also mention too, in addition to just our trading platform, one big thing in terms of our business model and Coinigy going forward is we provide a real-time API on our back end. And that's kind of marketed towards people trying to build their own trading bots, institutional investors, really anyone that's interested in managing multiple accounts on exchanges, managing their portfolio, and everything actually is piped through. We use a service called Socket Cluster that we have hosted, and it's really institutional grade stuff. So, we have over 3 billion historical records in terms of price data and market metrics, and everything is fed in real time on over 2,600 markets and I think 48 exchanges right now, but that number is growing over time.
You know what I love about your service is that we focus as an exchange. We focus on speed of the trade and settlement. We focus on a lot of this stuff, and to be able to say, people can come in and see rudimentary charts and see nice up and down and make a decision like that. But for a proper day trader, we would have to really spend a lot of time building out all of these tools, and you guys have done that already. And it's just a matter of plugging Vaultoro into that, or another exchange like Gemini or anything else, and then people can really get into the fine-grained detail of what you can't usually do on some of these exchanges. So it's a really nice way, and I really don't think you're going to have that much of an issue on a legal front because it is literally just an interface to these other businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as far as your first point, yeah, I mean, we always like to say, leave the UI to us, and you guys handle your matching engine and security. I mean, that's really, in terms of exchanges are concerned, that's the two big points for you guys. As far as KYC, AML, and compliance and that kind of stuff. But when it comes to the fancy stuff, we really, that's kind of our strong point. So. Yeah, and in terms of compliance, as mentioned, I mean, I think we're okay. As far as right now, we are in the near future. Looking at kind of doing cross-exchange transfers. Once we get into that level of integration, things might get a little bit more tricky in terms of the legal minefield. But yeah, so in addition to all the other things too, I mean, we are working on currently our own internal block explorer. So we're working on right now we have data on 134 separate blockchains, and that's all fed in real time. We're going to have a beautiful block explorer available soon, but that's also going to basically be a white label explorer. So, any private blockchain even or smart contract asset platform, we really want to build in support for those. So, Perianne mentioned, NASDAQ's working on their link. I know R3CEV and some of these bigger institutions are working on their own private blockchains. One big thing for us, at least as I see it in the future, is who's really going to be auditing those private blockchains. And I won't get into the whole is a private blockchain good or bad and that kind of thing. But at some point there has to be transparency outside of these institutions. So as far as we're concerned, that's a huge direction that we're moving in our business in terms of blockchain auditing and just being able to even give outsiders access into these platforms, really to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So yeah.
Transparency is key. I mean, you mentioned Mt. Gox right at the start there, and I lost a lot of money on Mt. Gox collapse, and I think a lot of people did, and that was an inspiration for me to create the transparency protocols, the extreme transparency that we have on Vaultoro, and it's these sort of things are so important. I mean, I find transparency to be one of the most important things in Bitcoin for the company side, because if we don't become transparent, if we as users don't use transparent exchanges or platforms or blockchains, we will get the might of the state coming to save the day,
right?
Really destroy the day, and because they're just ignorant fools writing without, of course, with help from people like Perianne, it becomes better, but generally they just do knee-jerk reaction, shut it all down, and really the benefit of blockchains and Bitcoin to mankind is that it's free and open, and by closing that down because because we as users didn't use transparent exchanges is really sad. So it's really important, users, and I can't state this enough, to use exchanges that are transparent, and it's great to see Coinigy will be having some of these tools available to look through and make sure people are solvent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the exact same mindset, really. And that's why we're so glad to have you guys a part of this as well. Really, I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, there was this big push to, have exchanges show their proof of reserve, and that was a great step forward. But I think we even potentially need to go slightly further, on a lot of these topics. I mean, for example, we just saw what happened recently with Currencies. A hack occurred and really nobody was notified. Well, we need some kind of, I guess going forward, we need some kind of real security blockchain, security-based blockchain application, basically to audit these exchanges and make sure that they are doing what they're saying they're doing.
Yeah,
Especially.
and with the proofs, you can have bots that are constantly looking. I mean, with our protocol, people could easily write a bot that's constantly looking, and then a little red flag comes up, hey, something is not right with these numbers. And that's where we need to get to, where we don't trust the might of the force of gun to keep people in line, but we keep people in line by having transparency for the company and security and privacy for the users.
Right, I agree wholeheartedly. And to touch on that also, I mean, in terms of the recent ruling in terms of classifying cryptocurrencies as a commodity in the U.S., I mean, that's a great example of kind of a large swath, government red ink mandate. I mean, in reality, blockchain technology is not only a currency or a store of value, it's also a financial rail. And it's also basically just an ownership verification process. It can also act as a security. It can also act as, a million different things, really, especially when you get into smart assets and, software platforms like Ethereum and MadeSafe Coin and, a lot of these newer assets. So to just go ahead and say, okay, this is officially a commodity, well, you're really you're missing the point. There needs to be more just transparency in terms of all of that stuff. So
transparency.
I agree. So I guess in terms of Coinigy, though, I mean, one thing to say, I'll get some shameless promotion, and I guess, but we really, if you're currently trading on any of these platforms like Vaultoro, definitely give us a shot. We offer a 30-day free trial. And it's really simple. All you do is you log into the platform and you connect whichever exchange account you'd like. Everything is SHA 256 encrypted. We have a multi-tiered server architecture. We're very, very heavily security minded. If one big concern that people have as well, if we're giving Coinigy our API keys, that's a single point of failure. Well, to our testament in that respect, and thankfully, the exchanges have implemented this. There's different levels of security on the API keys. So you can choose whether or not you want, you can choose what level of access you want to grant Coinigy at any time. So for example, if you don't want to trade and you only want to monitor your balances, you can just select that, when you're generating your API key, and that's that. So we do have that kind of working for us, and we, are very thankful to all the exchanges for implementing that. You also can say, I don't want to allow withdrawals, and that right there will prevent your funds from, inadvertently being withdrawn without your request. So, and we do have currently we have our users. We did an audit the other day. Are holding just over $1 million worth of cryptocurrency on our platform. So we are, very well trusted at this point. We have kind of been really working on that first and foremost, getting the trust of users before anything. So.
Yeah, but like you said, also, these API keys are very sophisticated nowadays. That flag of "do not allow withdrawals" and then generate API key is fantastic. I mean, now people can have access to amazing professional trading tool sets without any of the risk of of giving you guys access to be able to withdraw those funds. So it's
Right,
really
and it's awesome. I mean, just because, this new industry, imagine if imagine how this would never work out, with bank accounts, basically.
yeah,
Or if you were connecting your, for example, a TD Ameritrade account or something like that, which, never mind the fact that you need, thousands of dollars to open, and versus with cryptocurrency, I mean, you can trade with as little as $5, but just the loopholes, I guess, that are involved in, actually dealing with bank accounts and all that stuff. I mean, cryptocurrency in general, the space and where it's at, really gets around that in a very mindful way and a very secure way. So yeah, we see it going forward in the future. I mean, at some point we would love, for strictly API-based exchanges. I mean, we really, I think we're working towards kind of nailing the user interface, and like I said, a lot of the exchanges should really be focusing on security and yeah, and order matching and order types and all that kind of fun stuff. So.
yeah. I mean, the Kraken, as much as I love Kraken, I mean, their interface is hard work, to say the least. And
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few out there, so it's. I mean, I personally do all my trading through Coinigy, so, but yeah, in building in all these integrations, I mean, we've seen the best of the best and the worst of the worst, not only in terms of API, access and development and that kind of stuff, but user interfaces as well. So
wanted to say hello to Vlado down there. He's hanging out.
Yeah, I'm passive today, but it's a great conversation.
Great. And what do you do there at Coinigy? What's your role?
Well, I'm helping Coinigy with strategy, partnership, and investor relations. So we are trying to expand the business, and we potentially looking for new places in Europe to set up offices and establish place for Coinigy. So mainly my job is to evaluate the legal situation and to find partnerships across Europe and the States as well.
Great. One thing I like about Coinigy is, and I think Tatiana would agree, is that for the non-traders, you guys give out some really nice emails of tutorials of what does this mean? What is that? What is all these
Oh, I
technical
haven't seen those
terms.
yet.
I will make a short comment before I allow William to continue. So Coinigy as well, it's really focused on this education part, and we also running William and the other guys are running a Bitcoin Trading Academy podcast. Maybe William can tell something more about that. And also we are exploring here in Europe as part of our strategy mutually beneficial relationship with universities, where we can just use Coinigy to teach students how to trade and to enter the Bitcoin and blockchain world and cryptocurrencies as well.
Yeah, I can add on that. Yeah, education is really a huge focus. So Tatiana, I don't know if you just signed up, but we do have a kind of a 15-day training series, basically with some helpful tutorials, basically just learning the basics of technical analysis, how to execute trades, how to the big thing really is how to properly manage your portfolio. Only take a certain percentage of your portfolio for any single trade. That's kind of the hardest thing for new traders to do, myself included. It's kind of been
All in.
Yeah, exactly. So we do also we run a biweekly podcast called Bitcoin and Altcoin Trading Talk, where we kind of review some of the newer altcoins and actually do some technical analysis, and we also kind of give updates in terms of the platform and where we are with development. So
Yeah, I've tried trading before. I think that I'm too risk averse. I I don't know. I feel like trading is just gambling. I'm not a gambler. So I like learning about it, but I think it's the kind of thing that you have to sort of stay on top of. But I think it's always good to learn a new skill. And where can people sign up for that, by the way, the trading 15-day trading thing?
Oh yeah, if you just sign up at Coinigy.com, that's automatically sent out to your email. So, but you can also visit YouTube.com/Coinigy, and we have all those videos up there. And then the podcast is also located at that channel as well. But yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from in terms of trading. Some people have the bugs, some people don't. Just know that it does have trading is a necessary aspect as far as I'm concerned in terms of cryptocurrency along with mining. There has to be some kind of liquidity into this market to make mining attractive. And that's really what we're all working towards is, decentralized consensus. In order to have that, we need people willing to verify the transactions, and in order to motivate those folks, they need some kind of, well, at least I'm of the thought, what's a better motivating factor than some kind of economic advantage for them?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I think having being able to give those tools that really professional traders have to people that really are starting out and learning, and being able to trade down to like 4 cents, little tiny amounts, and learn about how that works, then I think that's a really nice way, because normal trading accounts, you need a minimum of quite a lot, and then for a lot of people that's too much. So it's you should never trade for what you can't afford to lose, of course. But I think, like you said, trading is a part of the ecosystem, and I would say it's the killer app for Bitcoin at the moment. Of course, there's new killer apps coming out all the time, like ZAR and all these things. But right at the start of this seed of Bitcoin, we have trading as the killer app.
yeah, I agree, and yeah, it's definitely great in terms of being able to just put in a buck and see what you can make of it. But yeah, I think that's it for me. Unless Vlado has anything to add.
I'm done.
No, I think
Cool.
fantastic. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us. There will not be a Tatiana show next week because I will be at the RSA conference, which should be fun. But I'm really glad that you were able to join us. One more time, what's the website if people want to come and check it out?
Sure. Thanks again for having us.
Yeah.
The website is Coinigy.com, Coinigy.com, and you can sign up for a 30-day free trial. There's no obligation. So all you need is an email address to sign up, and you'll be on your way.
Great. And then Josh, everybody can find you. What's your story right now? You want to say goodbye to the audience? Oh, we almost forgot the magic word.
Oh, Jesus creepers.
William, Vlado, do you guys want to come up with a magic word? It can't be Coinigy. It has to be, something. Because we have, I have more announcements. Wait, time out. So on Let's Talk Bitcoin, they have a magic word. So we're taping right now for liberty.me, and then it goes over to Let's Talk Bitcoin. And then we have a couple new people that are going to be sharing this show. So Free Talk Live and IMP Nation. Really excited to have them. I don't know, sharing our stuff around to broaden the audience, but we do need a secret word. So what is that secret word that we're going to use for the listeners over at Let's Talk Bitcoin?
Can it be a standard word, like a?
Yes. It could be any word. It could even be a phrase. It doesn't have to be.
Okay, let's go with blockchain markets or something like that. That might be
Blockchain markets. It is. No, I think that's cool. That's fine.
That's a good one.
I'm not fully understanding the concept of the secret word, so maybe that's not.
Yeah.
There is no concept. It's just to prove that people are listening.
I gotcha. Okay.
People listen, they write it in, and then they get some tokens for listening.
Exactly.
I see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, all you handsome gentlemen. Thank you again to Perianne, who joined us before at the Chamber of Digital Commerce. Please check out her event March 3rd. And we'll be back in a couple weeks. Check out all of our episodes at liberty.me, Let's Talk Bitcoin, IMP Nation, and Free Talk Live. So exciting. I'll see you all soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
So.